morning. This week we are going to start looking at our genetics, and we're going to start with looking at DNA. What is DNA? What does it look like? How does it make a copy of itself? We learned last week about how our cells are constantly reproducing, and when they go through mitosis, we make identical cells. Well, part of that process in the cell cycle during that S phase is the DNA making an exact copy of itself. So how does the DNA actually do that? We're going to talk about what a chromosome is, which is basically just an organized way to package up DNA. And then you're going to look at a couple different biotechnology techniques that are used to isolate DNA from a cell, to actually get it out of the cell, and then to analyze DNA, something that is used, for instance, in crime scene investigations. So really this week we're going to start focusing a lot of time and energy on what DNA looks like. So DNA is stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, kind of a mouthful, so we usually just call it DNA. But you can see here from this DNA structure that it's got two strands to it. So kind of like a backbone. It's like a twisted ladder. We call that a double helix. And then in between each strand are these middle pieces that actually are connected together or chemically bonded together. And we'll talk more about that structure in your reading and watching the lecture video that I have on DNA. DNA is wrapped up then, all of your DNA, which you have enough DNA to go from the sun and the earth back in your body like over 400 times. These are all packaged up then into structures in your nucleus called chromosomes. So if you're looking at this big picture here, we got our cell, right? We got our nucleus, which was the control center of the cell and contained all of our genetic information. Inside those nucleus are structures called chromosomes, and those chromosomes then are made up of very wound up pieces of DNA. And here's another kind of, bigger view of what a piece or a part of a DNA molecule looks like. Again, you got this backbone, which is going to be made up of a sugar and a phosphate group. The sugar is called deoxyribose, that's where it gets its name. And then in between you have these chemicals that are called nitrogen bases. There's 4 possibilities: A's, T's, G's, and C's. And they're going to be very specific about who they want to hook up with. They don't like just anyone. T's and A's like each other, C's and G's like each other. And then here's just another really great picture, I think, that shows, again, how all of this works. Here's your DNA. So your DNA is going to be the structures that I kind of just showed you, and then they're going to be wrapped around these proteins called histones, and they are going to end up forming these structures that are found in your cells called chromosomes. Chromosomes have a middle part, a centromere. They have arms, a long arm and a short arm. So typically the shorter arm is called the P arm and the longer one is called the Q arm. And then on the very ends they have these structures called telomeres, which serve a really important function in protecting the chromosome as it goes through different processes. Humans have 46 chromosomes in your cells. You have 23 pairs. You have 2 chromosome number 1s, you got one from mom, you got one from dad. You got 2 chromosome number 2s, you got one from mom, you got one from dad. So all of the cells in your body have 46 chromosomes. The only exception would be your sex cells. So if you're a female, your egg cells, or if you're a male, your sperm cells, they only have 23. They only have one set. And if you think about it, we aren't going to talk a whole lot about this process in this course. In a more advanced course you would. But that would make sense because when you want a sperm and an egg to join together, you want to have a human with 46 total chromosomes, right? So your sperm and your egg cells are going to go through a process of actual division where they split the chromosomes in half so that they only have 23, so that when fertilization occurs, the human has 46. Otherwise, they'd have 92, and that would not be good. So read sections 9.1 and 9.2 in chapter 9 and then chapter 10 for this particular week. Content assignment, guided notes, and there is a virtual lab. There's no discussion this week, no let's talk, so don't have to worry about that. And then take your weekly quiz. So this week, next week, and the following week are all about genetics. So make sure that if you have questions that you are getting help and that you are asking me to give you whatever it is that you need. So have a fantastic week.